Welcome, everyone. My name is Susan Patterson. I'm the director of Through God's Grace Ministry and author of the book, How You Can Fight Human Trafficking, Over 100 Ways to Make a Difference. Our ministry offers many ways to take action in the fight against human trafficking. By simply going to our website and selecting the Education Resource tab, you can find videos and flyers organized by category, like the power of the church to end human trafficking, the prevention strategy section, and much more. We also host powerful events and discussion groups, and you can find those on the homepage. Our event today is on the sextortion of minors that many consider to be the fastest growing crime against children and teens in the world. Sextortion is when pedophiles blackmail children, some as young as 7, to make and send them child porn. What is keeping this crime unchecked is the lack of awareness. Parents may be vigilant about monitoring their teenage daughter, but think nothing of their young child uploading a cute song to TikTok or playing an online game. They are naive to the fact that, for example, a 35-year-old could claim to be a 10-year-old and using voice-changing software playing that children's game with their young child. Our speaker today is Opal Singleton, a national cyber exploitation expert and the author of these 2 books. She is the director of Million Kids. For over 12 years, Opal has trained over 500,000 individuals, including law enforcement, social workers, medical personnel, first responders, school officials, as well as parents, and thousands of young people on sex trafficking and online sexual exploitation. In her role with Million Kids, Opal sits with parents who are dealing with children who have been trafficked or are being blackmailed. Simply stated, Opal cares deeply about kids and their families. We ask that you help us raise awareness of this sexual assault against children by sharing this video. Without further ado, let's join the event.
So, I want to talk about sextortion and social media exploitation. I've been involved with this since about 2012, and it is absolutely becoming a pandemic. I honestly believe it's the fastest growing crime in the world. And so we want to talk about what that looks like. Sextortion, in essence, is blackmail with a video, a photo, or maybe even live streaming. And it is changing dramatically and expanding in ways you can't even imagine. Sometimes it's a young girl that falls in love on a dating site and she sends a naked photo. Sometimes it's a young guy in a video game chat room where he gets all hot and heavy, and all of a sudden they're sharing a personal sexual moment and he forgets that that live streaming goes both ways. Sometimes it's a situation where kids actually make a nude video and send it out thinking they're going to be amateur pornographers. There are many different ways that this works. So we're going to really go into what that crime looks like. So how big is it? Well, over the pandemic, it has grown enormously. This is National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. We lovingly call them NCMEC. Anyway, they saw a 98% increase between 2019 and 2020. That is directly related to the fact that both pedophiles are online and our children are online without supervision. The cyber tip hotline increased from about 17 million in 2019 to almost 22 million in 2020. By 2021, it had reached almost 30 million. Now, there's only 44 million teenagers in the US, so this is global. And the thing you have to recognize is there are other agencies taking these hotlines and calls in addition to this 29 million. And on top of it, one of the things that's happened in the last couple of years is we've been able to get many of the tech companies to run algorithms on their platforms and start to search out the child pornography they're seeing. So that's another reason why this number has exploded. Honestly, NCMEC and Homeland Security and FBI cannot keep up with the number of leads. It's that big. But an interesting trend that was happening is suddenly they realized There's 44 million videos that they're looking at and almost 40 million photos. So it's going more high tech. There are more videos that kids are making because of technology that is out there. So it's changing dramatically on how it works. So for the past 6 years now, I've worked on raising money to get a movie. My original intent was just to have a movie that would be shown in schools all over America. And it has been a work of love, if you will. I started in 2016. I lost my husband in 2017. Before he passed away, he told me, he said, I need to know when I'm gone that you're still doing this. The next 2 years of widowhood and trying to raise money and find people to invest were really some of the toughest of my life. In 2019, I, number one, met my new husband, and we're now married, and I'm spoiled rotten, and it's wonderful. But I also met the people from Giving University, and they came alongside of us, and we met Auroras Media, and this movie has come to fruition. It has been nominated but not awarded in the Santa Barbara Film Festival. We are on the verge of releasing it. And I'm going to talk about this as we talk about the crime of sextortion. We can't release it until we get a contract with a big streamer like Netflix, Amazon, or Sony. And so what we need to do there is show a lot of interest in this film. And so I'm going to ask you at the end, I'm going to show you a trailer. I'm going to ask you at the end to go on to their site and share it with everyone you know and get as many people as you can to look at this trailer. So we've been combating this crime now for over 12 years. And what we're seeing is a massive change, and because of advanced technology, because of the global connection of the internet, it allows easy access, and we are putting vulnerable kids on there in massive numbers without supervision. During the COVID pandemic, literally, we placed millions of kids online. Most of them, many of them were prepubescent, and many of them are unsupervised. That's especially concerning to me because when you put a 7-year-old child online without them understanding what adult sex is and what a pedophile is and why they want that naked photo, they are a sitting duck for exploitation. That guy will send them a video and they think it's a game. And everybody's showing pictures of their pee-pee and doing sexual things, and they think it's a game. And they do not have the capacity to understand what's going to happen in that event. On top of it, we are putting pedophiles online in the same kind of environment. First of all, they can connect with other pedophiles. They're home, they're working at home, and pedophilia is obsessive compulsive behavior, which gets aggravated when it's under pressure. You're more likely to act out. And especially if you're doing a lot of hours online and connecting that also with a porn addiction. The isolation factor has been huge because it brings on loneliness. That's true for teens, for children, for pedophiles. They look online for reassurance, for inclusion, especially that inclusion factor, whether it's the kid wanting to be included because now they're socially isolated, or whether it's the pedophile who also wants to be included in a pedophile ring. They interact and they're looking for relief for boredom and their addiction. You couple that with at the same time, we're experiencing a technology transformation. And there are many factors that affect this. Number one is mass audience live streaming. Think about what's happening. Your kids no longer on Facebook. They're on TikTok where they're interacting with millions of people. They're no longer in Minecraft chat rooms. They're on Fortnite where they're literally, you know, the last one I saw, 11 million people were playing simultaneously. That's because we have 5G and it gives a lot of expansion, a lot of speed. We have global webcam experiences, just like you and I are experiencing, only these are being used to violate children. We now have billions of people, young kids on video games. We've had a mass explosion of the video game industry and giving inexpensive electronics to our children so that it's easy for them to access. We are in the process of starting to put cryptocurrency on almost every app. That's huge when you start to think about amateur pornography and making money. And cell phone pornography. There was a statistic that came out this year from Pornhub that said that 83% of pornography is now viewed with a phone. Think about what that means. It's laying on the seat of your car while you stop at a street light. It's on your desk when you're at work. And on top of it, we have artificial intelligence, AI, so that pedophiles can actually profile and find specific kids that meet a particular profile. Artificial reality, augmented reality, extended reality, animation, animated video game character pornography is one of the fastest growing categories in pornography that is out there. So one of the big factors, as I talked about, is this mass audience live streaming. I'm talking about things like TikTok, and I'm not telling you TikTok's bad. I'm on TikTok myself, but we're putting millions of kids on TikTok with new technology without understanding the exposure factor that is going on there. In TikTok, you're no longer connected with 45 people. If you want to go viral, yes, you can be private on TikTok, but you're not going to go viral. And every kid wants to go viral. They want millions of people to notice them. So they'll make a video, they send it out there, and it's now 2 ways. And so that pedophile can talk back by text. I'm going to cough here a minute. This is important to understand. When I talk to kids, these guys are using this technology and all they're looking for is available and vulnerable. They're playing a numbers game. You send that video out there, they sign up for that category, and the next thing you know, they just start contacting everybody in there. If you flirt back, you're available and vulnerable. This is exactly how it works on these dating sites. Tinder and Meet Me are the biggest ones, and they'll start going through there, building a relationship that will lead to the request of a nude or an erotic photo. Same thing with these hookup sites. A hookup site by its very nature means that you're not making a commitment, and so they will prey on that. So when TikTok was really first coming out, I had a mother tell me that her daughter was doing very, very well on that. And I said, really? And she said, yeah, she got 1 million followers. Well, that's nothing on TikTok anymore. Will Smith has 40 million. A lot of people will have 5 million. So I asked Mom, I said, well, okay, she's doing good. How old is she? Well, she's 11. So I said to Mom, let's think about this a minute, Mom. Your 11-year-old is making a TikTok video. If she has 1 million followers, what percentage of them are pedophiles? Let's say it's only 1%, and I think that number is low. 1% is 10,000 pedophiles, and your daughter wants to be discovered. All a pedophile has to do is sign up for those categories and wait. They send them a text going, hey, baby, you're hot. Meet me over on Instagram. Get me more of those videos. Hey, make them better. I'm an agent. I'll sign you up. I'll get you a deal. Is your 11-year-old daughter mature enough to stand against 10,000 pedophiles, some of which want to make her famous? So I want to look at this technology issue related to sexual exploitation crimes. As Susan will tell you, I've written a couple of books. One of them is Societal Shift, A World Without Borders, A Home Without Walls. By the way, I'm 85% through a third book called Sextortion, The Global Crisis. And it'll be a downloadable book, about probably $9.95 on my website. And it'll be illustrated, and I'll actually read it to you, kind of like this kind of presentation. But Societal Shift is all about the fact that our kids will live in a world without borders and a home without walls. I believe we live at the most important moment in all of history. And I mean that with all my heart. If you think about your challenges in leadership, you are a leader at one of the most important times that's ever happened in history. And that is because for the first time in history, we will all be connected by 5G. It was supposed to happen last month. It got put off a little bit. It probably will happen in the next probably 90 days. The entire world will be connected by internet. That means our kids will be able to reach the entire world, but the entire world will reach our kids. And I say to you as faith-based leaders, what are we doing to teach our kids to live in a world that is totally connected with technology? You know, I think myself, technology isn't good or bad. Technology is kind of like driving a car. You can drive that car over to a university and get a degree, or you can drive it to a strip club and get yourself in trouble. It is not the car, it is how we prepare the drivers of the car. And I believe one of the greatest challenges to Christian leadership is to prepare this generation to live in a world that will use technology to honor and glorify God and will also honor themselves. I believe how we get this generation prepared for that will set the stage for all future generations. But it is a challenge because our kids are smarter than us, okay? These kids know exactly how to do all this stuff. They try out new games, new apps, and we're running along behind them going, you be careful on that thing now, because they know and we know that they know more than us. So how do we take this on to make it work? On top of it, as we said before, we're doing this younger and younger. I love the little guy on the left here. You know, how does that work? That feels like me, okay? Those two kids cannot tell you if they're on a little kid's video game or if they're on the World Wide Web. And we have to take a look at that. I call it a home without walls because 87% of kids sleep with their phone. That means that pedophiles in the middle of the night, when they're most vulnerable, can come right between the bedding and say, hello, let's get acquainted. We have to explain to our kids and overcome it ourselves. A world without borders for our kids is also a world without borders for pedophiles, for pimps, for predators, for gangs, for cartels, and organized crime. I get a little crazy about this, I suppose, but you know, to put a child on the internet without explaining how the internet works and how they can be exploited is kind of like putting your child out on the 10 freeway without mentioning that there are cars going up and down there. And when they get ran over, you blame Caltrans. We must prepare our children for the world that they're going to live in. I just want to show this to you because a world without borders for bad guys has been going on for quite a while now. This is the first case in the dark web where the FBI was able to penetrate a pedophile ring in the dark web. By the way, because of our film, I got to have dinner with him a week and a half ago, and he was amazed that I knew every one of his cases from all my research. But in 2015, they penetrated a dark web site that had 215,000 pedophiles. It was ran by this guy. I point this out because I'm about to show you the current rings and just how much they have exploded. So this is working for bad guys too. They meet on the internet, they get acquainted, they find inclusion, they find acceptance, they exchange IP addresses and how to find each other in the darknet sites, and they form large-scale communities. They are addictive, they give inclusion, they're competitive, it becomes their social life, and it makes them involved. You don't get just to go into one of those sites, by the way. I'm going to show you how this works. But one of the things that's accelerating this is that once you're in one of these dark web sites, you have to qualify each week to stay in the site. And you have to show them that you're not a cop, because it was in this case that the Homeland Security was able to penetrate that. So each week they have administrators around the world that require you to violate a child or get a naked photo of a child that shows that you did it and send it off to them to qualify. I believe that's one of the factors that's accelerating pedophilia, because I believe that most pedophiles are not going to violate every week, but now they have to be able to be included in those dark web addresses. And you're seeing that as a major factor in there. So when a child sends an illicit photo to a member of a large-scale pedophile ring, that means that photo can now go to more than 1 million people. And what we're seeing is live streaming and encryption are creating a very lucrative pay-per-view child pornography participation events that are generating millions of dollars. This is about money laundering for cartels. The same way we are seeing cartels now and gangs in the child pornography business that you did not see before. Same kind of thing as you're familiar with human trafficking. They make money off of drugs and guns, but they make more money off of violating people. The other thing we're seeing is these pedophiles are meeting online and creating large-scale rings where they're exploiting and harassing our young people to give them those naked photos so that they can buy, sell, and trade them in their darknet ring. And so one of the things you'll see here is that many of our kids may be talking to 6, 8, 10, 20 different pedophiles and not realize it. Here is one that they had where they had 9 different pedophiles. Depending on how the kid responded is which one of these guys responded. The kid will not know they're talking to 9 different people. Now, these guys never met. They met online. They lived all over the world, all over the United States. They found a likeness. They formed a child pornography exploitation ring, and they literally exploited thousands of kids. The same kind of trend is moving into live streaming events. Now, this one is from 2017, and I keep it because it was the first one I saw. Now we're seeing these on a regular basis. The same as you and I are coming together to learn about this, these guys, in this case, paid $7,500 to participate with 49 other men. While they all came together, they chatted, they got involved, they were competitive, they talked, and they orchestrated the violation of a toddler being sexually violated in the Philippines. In the end, after 10 minutes, a cartel was able to bill $350,000, and they never delivered a gun or a drug. This has been a billion-dollar business in the Philippines for a long time now, because in the Philippines, they have high-speed internet. They're very poor. They have a lot of children, and this kind of thing has been, and they speak English, so this kind of thing has been going on for a long time. So I want to look at the numbers related to sextortion. This is blackmail with a photo. This is prior to COVID. I have not been able to get post-COVID numbers, but from the number of leads from NCMEC, I can tell you these numbers are very low. Center for Disease Control said that 18,000 kids a day were being exploited. I think that number is very low, quite frankly. I think it's more like at least 30 to 40,000 if you've got almost 30 million leads. 9,000 kids a day were being blackmailed, but here's the important thing to understand. 58% of the kids that were being blackmailed will go out and meet up with their pedophile in order to negotiate back that photo, and they get raped or they get violated, and some of them are murdered. We have to take this on to share with kids so they understand why you need to report. You have the power to report, but more important, do not go out and meet up with that pedophile. We had a case in Rancho Cucamonga. She was 17. She had never done illicit photos. She had been on a dating site with this guy for a long time. She believed he cared. She took her top off. That's all that happened. And in that, the minute he got that photograph, he turned on her and started to blackmail her. She blocked him. 3 days later, she gets that video from some man she's never met by email. She doesn't even email. She replies to him and he says, you know, I'm a private investigator and you look like a nice girl. How did this happen? She starts explaining it. He said, I don't live far away. Meet up with me. I'll cut you a deal since you're a young person. I won't charge you as much, but I'll help you get that photo back. She met up with him and he raped her. It's the same guy. They use different MOs, different identities, different websites and links. This is a case that we had 3 years ago, but it's typical. This young girl was a straight A student going to a private school. She met a guy online. She had no intention of running away with him. All she did, she went into her school, took off her uniform, put on her jeans, and she went out to see what he was like without telling anybody. He pulled a gun on her and poof, she's gone like that. Here's an 11-year-old girl. She's playing on Minecraft. Mom and dad knew that she was talking to some guy in another state, but he's in another state. They never give it a thought. They put her to bed on Saturday night, go to get her up Sunday morning for church. She's in a motel being raped by this guy in another state. She snuck out in the middle of the night just to see what this guy was like. I have so many of these stories, I had to restrain myself from including them. And that's the purpose of Insider Alert, is to see how this works. In this case, to show you it isn't just girls, this 14-year-old boy is talking to the girl on the right in a video game chat room. Keep in mind, there's a lot of sex in those video games. They're hot and heavy. He says to her, hey, why don't you come by? She's saying she only lives an hour away. She actually lives 8 hours away. Come by. I'll run out in the middle of the night. We'll have a little sex in the car, and then I'll get back in and my folks won't know. She brings her friend. He jumps in the car. They lock the car. They pull a knife on him, and they took him back 8 hours away. They held him for 5 days. They raped him over and over and left him naked along a side of a dirt road. This is Patricia Alatorre from Bakersfield. She's 14 years old, or 13 years old. She goes online and she meets up with this guy in Inglewood. And I don't know exactly how it happened, but they got together sometime at least once before this event. We know it ended in oral sex, according to his testimony. We don't know if it was forced or seduced, but that's how it happened. The next time she gets out in her bed, she takes her bedding and she puts her clothes under her bedding so her folks will think she's home. And she goes out, and she was last seen getting in that pickup truck at 3 in the morning. They later heard her screaming, and they found her nude body. She had been raped, she had been strangled, she had been raped again, and then they poured gasoline on her body and burned it. This is a beautiful, smart, straight-A young girl, very popular. And I would tell you that if she were alive, she would tell every kid, don't believe that. It can happen to you. That's the biggest problem with this. They all think it won't happen to them. That's why we need the movie. Here's a wonderful young man out of Utah who took his own life. He was being sextorted from somebody from the Ivory Coast. In our movie is the talk with Amanda's mother. This is Amanda Todd, who also took her own life. So there is a lot of cases with suicide. Now, one of the kinds of sextortion we see that just kind of blew me away this last year is when our kids make the videos uncoerced and send them in because they think they want to be amateur pornographers. This happened on Pornhub. In Pornhub, they started to get sued. In fact, the suits were up to over $500 million when MasterCharge and Visa shut them down. These were suits by parents whose kids have been seduced into making a video so that they can be amateur pornographers and make a little extra money. Keep in mind, as we have future apps with money transfer on them, this is going to be a normal routine in the future. But in this case, what happened is MasterCharge Visa forced them to take those down. And I said to myself, why are all of our kids sending a naked photo into Pornhub? Well, before they took it down, I got this off their website. Look at this. Upload your video, your porn video, and make $40,000 a month. Keep in mind, our kids are already uploading videos to Kick. And by the way, not Kick, to TikTok. There is a porn section of TikTok called TikTok Thought, T-H-O-T. Watch out for that. It is true porn. But these are kids. Then they started to get blackmailed. They had to take down over 9 million videos that our kids sent into them thinking they're going to make some money. So part of the purpose of the movie is, where do naked photos go when you hit send? Well, first you have to understand the internet, and that's why we wanted the movie. If you think of the internet as a bucket of water, the top 4% is where we live. We have search engines, Google, Chrome, IP addresses. Below that is the deep web. That's where the big NSA and governments store their stuff. But the bulk of the internet is the dark web. And it isn't all bad. By the way, I guarantee you there's probably several Russian and Ukraine sites now talking in that dark web because it's more encrypted and harder to find who's using it. You need a specific address. You can't just go from the surface web to the dark web. If some kid tells you, oh, mom, I just did that by accident, don't believe them. What happens is you need a special browser. And it's not such an expensive browser. Many people can have it, but more affluent kids have it because you need a better computer. But it's called Tor, the onion router. If you ever see a kid with .onion, they're in the dark web and they need to be reported. I found kids in private Christian schools, .onion accounts, and they're watching pornography in the dark web. So how big is this now? We saw one originally for 215,000. This one had 1 million paid subscribers. $200 every 6 months to belong. 1 million people use their Bitcoin account to do that. That's $400 million. Some cartel is using the violation of kids and getting pedophiles to get our kids to send photos in where they're making money on this. So if your child sends a photo to one of the people in this ring, their photo is going to go to 1 million people like that, and it'll be bought, sold, and traded and drooled over by over 1 million pedophiles, and you will never be able to get it back. Every one of these computers held that kind of information. So now that the law enforcement's penetrating the dark web, they're moving off to bulletproof hosting. And what that is literally putting your servers in third world sites that don't ask questions about what you're doing. This is Iceland, this is Russia, this is China, this is Romania and Bulgaria and Belize in there. And so law enforcement's getting better, but we have to stay on top of it. So pedophiles try to normalize the relationship. And this is where I'm going to get into the emotional part of understanding the impact on our victim. Because many of these pedophiles will show them videos of other kids violating other kids or having sexual interaction with a family pet. Understand what's happening here. They are making pedophiles out of our children before they ever go through puberty. And so what is happening here is our kids are exposed to some of the worst kind of pedophilia. This is a case where the perpetrator was, this is an insider alert, by the way, a perpetrator was up in Oregon and he met a 9-year-old girl over in Australia. He sent her photos of older men having sex with kids and the pet. In this case, she said, look, I'm only 9, give me a break. Well, he sent her pictures of animals that are being violated. By the way, on my insider alert, it actually got to the mother of the child, and she wrote me to thank me for what I do and to telling her child's story without exposing her child. Here's one I did recently. He preyed on boys, just to show you there are no respecter of persons here. He would tell them that they're probably gay and he's going to be their gay mentor. And they asked for nude pictures on there. He actually connected well with the 13-year-old boy out of Utah, sent some gifts, sent some images. But more important, he's showing these victims the images that he's collected from other victims so that the kids think that this is absolutely normal. I'm going to get heavy on you, so take a deep breath, but I need to do this because I believe you're faith-based leaders that can help with this crime. Think about what has happened, whether you're 17 or 7. All of a sudden, your world goes upside down. These people are threatening to show all the stuff you did to all your friends at school, to your parents. They want money. They want you to meet up. They want a lot more photos. They want you to have photos with other family members. This kid, a whole chapter in the book, Societal Shift, Phantom Relationships, Prisms of Shame. Because think about it, nobody came in the room and violated them. They literally decided to do this themselves based on that fantasy that was taking place. I share with kids, anytime you put a nude photo or illicit photo on the internet, I don't care as to your best friend, your boyfriend, your girlfriend, you're in a blackmail prison because you don't know who's got that photo and where it's going to show up again. The only way to not be in a blackmail prison is never send that photo. But this is really where I need faith-based help. I am finding that this is an extreme family crime. It affects the whole family. God had me speak to a guy for 3 hours one day. My soul was wrenched when I was through with that man. He looked at me and his 11-year-old girl had seen a video, inserted some things, in her body, and it had gone out to tens of thousands of men around the world. And he was crying, and he said, I look at her like she's a damaged goods. She's 11, I know better, but I'm a man, and I'm struggling with that. And he said, I grieve the loss of her innocence, and I get mad at myself for paying for the phone. And I get mad at my wife for giving the phone. I get mad at the phone, and I get mad at the app company, and I can't sleep, and I can't work, you know, and we need to create counseling for family members. This is a family crime. It affects the marriage, it affects the kids, and it affects the rest of the kids and the family. For most of our kids, their first sexual encounter will be a virtual sexual encounter. And if that's a shame-based encounter, and keep in mind, we're doing this prepubescent, before our kids even can understand what healthy sexual interaction should be, what a healthy relationship should look like, what self-forgiveness looks like being a loved and cherished child of God means. We're doing this while they're going through puberty. Online sexual exploitation does not have to happen. So I'm going to give you three slides here of what to look for, those behaviors, and what you can do. And then I'm going to show you the trailer. You know your child's behavior better than anybody else, so pay attention to those subtle signs. This can happen to straight A students. Their grades will stop, they start to drop. Suddenly they're not going to all their classes. They don't know who has that photo. They may start running away. They'll be real secretive with the devices, okay? They'll shut that pad down or start locking their door on there. They may start cutting. Huge red flag. We'll see that a lot. Pay attention to that. Their eating will change. They either can't eat, they become bulimic or anorexic. They may start running away and then coming back. They don't know who has those photos or if that guy's going to show up and get them. And that's another reason. They may start sneaking out, thinking they're going to meet up and get those photos back. They may need large sums of money. We've seen several of these where they've cashed in the family jewels or stolen the money or started to sell electronics equipment to get money. And they may have an unusual fantasy relationship. When they report, do not look at them and go, what the heck were you thinking? Okay. We need to listen. This is grace. We need grace. They need grace. They are in the toughest spot of their life. Now, what if you think your child is being exploited and you don't have proof, but you want to be able to deal with them? You see a change in behavior. Do not start wagging your finger and going, do you have one of those photos on the internet? They will shut down and block you out. What you do is you sit quietly. And I prefer men to sit with boys and women to sit with girls, but I can't guarantee that always works, but I prefer that. Here's why. If you, dad, see those photos, you cannot unsee what you've seen. And so the best thing to do is sit there and say, you know, I see you dealing with something heavy. Can we talk about it? Can you share with me? And be quiet, give them room. If they can't, then you can say, you know, is it possible you might have maybe one of those photos online? Not, you know, big judgmental or anything like that. See if they can come out. If they can't, then here's what you say. I hope you don't. But if you do, we're going to be okay. I'm not taking everything away from you. I'm not going to reject you. I'm here for you. They are in the loneliest spot of their life. And it is important that you interact and say, you know, it will be tough. We will have to go to law enforcement, okay? But we're going to work through this. You are not alone. I love you. I'm proud of you, and you're not alone. I'm going to be with you. So here's what you do at that point. Here's what you don't do first, okay? Come back to this. You do not go online and scream at the pedophile, you lousy, blah, 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 leave my kid alone. You don't do that. You just leave that alone. Do not delete the photos. Do not start screaming or showing the photos to everybody else. This child's in shame. Quietly, you and the child go to your cybercrimes unit. It's good to screenshot those photos if you can. And then go to your cybercrimes unit and let them pretend to be your child. They never have only one victim. And you have the capacity and ability in that case to help save other children. So what can you do here? Okay. One last thing, get counseling. Get counseling for the child separately so they can work through the shame and the blame and the guilt. Get counseling for you and your husband or wife, and then get separate counseling for the other children in the room. Live streaming can see right in the room. And I've had more than one case where they've had that victim involve a 12-year-old sister because they could see her. And it was either that or they were going to destroy his life. And so other kids get involved in this and they see. So what can you do as an organization? Use this film to educate your parents and your teens. And that includes grandparents, by the way. A lot of grandparents have a lot of impact on kids these days. Talk to your kids about digital morality. Kids will tell you sex on the internet is not sex because it's not real. I had one church youth group in a written survey. 1/4 of the kids told me sin on the internet was not sin because it wasn't real. Hold a youth group discussion about animated video game character pornography and how that impacts them and how prolific is it and what as Christian young people can we do about it. Get your young people to create a tech squad for your parents. A lot of parents don't know how to go through Instagram or all these different apps and be able to check and find them. So create a tech squad of that. Talk with your kids about empowering relationships. This generation will make relationships online. You know, are you in a relationship where they immediately transferred you to another app? That's probably a pedophile. That's the first thing they do to see if you're willing to follow and see if you're a cop. Are they asking all the questions and you're doing all the answering? Means they know more about you. Are they telling you don't tell? If you're in a relationship where you can't be proud of who you are and what you're doing, you probably shouldn't be in that relationship. You know, are they you know, making all the demands and you're doing all the giving? That's not a relationship. That's a negotiation and you're losing. So talk about how to analyze those relationships. Talk with parents and teens about indicators that I've just given you, what to look for in those behaviors. Talk to your kids about grace. One of the first things they do is say, you're going to be ruined with all the other kids. I think we start this generation by saying there is no such thing as damaged goods in God's eyes. We all get another chance and we need to give each other grace. Talk about that they should never go out and meet up with someone. Sign up for our insiders alerts so you can stay educated and get a lot more educated on this. And also for our missing kids. We have a lot of missing kids. We send them out and we have people that in their church takes our missing kids flyers and then sends it out to their church so more people will see it. And then for your larger churches, train your counselors to be able to do counseling for fathers and mothers and kids in this thing. I am going to show you the trailer for this movie. It was filmed inside. This is a gift from God. This is not me. This is a gift from God. The way he orchestrated this, it was filmed inside a Homeland Security and NCMEC partially, and the heads of their ICAC units were part of it. They are using their contracts with schools all across America, both private and public, to get our materials into all the schools. This is a case of Daniel Harris. You may want to Google that case when we're all through. Daniel Harris, sextorter. He was a gorgeous man, married to a gorgeous woman with 2 little children. He was a Navy Top Gun pilot, and he was sextorting 14-year-old girls all over the world. We chose that because it's exciting. And it's also will show kids, you think these pedophiles are some guy that lives in your mom's basement. Isn't like that. They are all kinds of people.
Date's November the 12th, 2013. The time now is approximately 7:28 in the morning. Investigator R.D. Vice President is Detective Joe Phillips with Virginia Beach Police.
Do you remember that time period?
Yes.
Can you start to tell the jury what happened?
I had, like, a friend request from this Steve Crofton guy.
Prior to that date, had you ever had contact with a Steve Crofton?
No.
For the first time in history, we're letting strangers interact with our kids in the back of our car, in their bedrooms, in their homes.
That online environment has just created this access to children that was never there before.
Physiologically, they don't understand who is out there and what people are capable of.
It's been called a new form of sexual assault, online sextortion.
For HSI, the increase that we've seen is definitely sextortion.
Sextortion is probably the fastest growing crime in the world.
That's right, sextortion attempts are skyrocketing.
You know, we see cases come in for children as young as 8 years old, 9 years old. We're talking elementary school children.
As a predator, you can actually create an online profile that matches the preferences of that child.
He got information from our chats through my computer, information about my mom, about my sister. He had Google images of my home.
From 16 years ago to today, there is no mold. Anybody from any walk of life could be involved in this. I mean, we've had doctors and police and clergy.
Simply the fact of who the offender was very shocking in this case.
We intercepted a letter he wrote to the Chinese embassy in Washington. If they would break him out, he would give them all the information on the F-18.
When you talk to me, please don't lie to me. You're a grown man, you're an officer of the Navy.
These grown men are going after these young girls and they try to kill them. Might not be in their intention, but they're killing them. And we have to stop it.
I would literally do anything to save one. There's so many kids out there that need saving that there's just not enough of us to do it.
And that's it. So I would ask you to please sign up for being Kids Insider Alert.